All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a set of meetings. We're going to be starting off with the Town of Lake Clark Shores' first public hearing, 2022-2023 town budget. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mayor Paul Shalhoub.
Present.
Vice Mayor Robert Shalhoub is absent. President Pro Tem Gregory Freebold.
Here.
Councilmember Valentin Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Robert Gonzalez.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Charlie. This time, I'd like to stand and let's have a moment of silence for Charles William Waddle Sr., also known as Bill Waddle, 82 years old, passed away earlier this summer, resident for the Town of Lake Clark Shores for over 50 years. Helen Cartledge, who is Emily Pearson's husband's grandmother, 98 years. She passed away back in June. And Juan Oberon passed away far too young at 44 years old earlier last month. May their memories be eternal. Pastor, would you be so kind as to lead us in the invocation and then a pledge of allegiance?
Be my honor, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's pray. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. The Lord who watches over you, the Lord is your shade on your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord keeps you from all harm, for he watches over your coming and your going, both now and forever. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity that we can gather here in this place, and we pray that you would indeed watch over us. Give us good discernment. Give us wisdom and knowledge that we might fulfill your will, our desire to serve you well. We come before you in thy precious and holy name. Amen. Amen. The pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Always beautiful. Mr. Clark, would you be so kind as to provide us with a presentation of the budget?
Be my pleasure, Mr. Mayor. So I am presenting tonight for your pleasure my 12th budget for the town of Lake Clark Shores. As always, we start out looking at our core mission as a community: police services, code compliance, utility services, permitting services, and general government. We have to follow generally accepted accounting principles. That's how governments need to do it. And it can be incredibly confusing, inconsistent between funds. Cash accounting, accrual accounting, and modified accrual accounting all have different meanings, different rules. And so it gets to be entertaining when you're trying to balance a budget with 5 different funds. Sometimes we transfer between funds, sometimes we deficit spend using savings from that fund, and our bank accounts and our budget accounts are never the same. I'm not sure why that is, but my auditors and my financial advisors all tell me that that's normal. In the general fund, we're proposing a balanced budget this year. There's no change in the millage rate. We're holding at 62798. Current year rollback would be 5.6155. Our current year taxable value is $338.7 million. That's up 12.61% from last year. Labor, there is no change in staffing and there's no change in benefits, insurance, health insurance or retirement benefits. I'm proposing a merit increase of 4% this year. The cost of living was 8.8%. We're back to having mostly our normal programs. Special events are back to normal with the tree lighting, the parade, the barbecue, the lake cleanup. By the way, that's coming up on September 17th, the first of our two. We have a movie night coming up next Friday night, fishing tournament, and this year there will be no loop around the lake. We just got too late of a start on that. General fund proposed balanced budget includes a garbage collection fee that's up 3% per our contract and a capital budget of $1.6 million. Most of that is the bridge, but we have quite a few other deferred expenditures that we need to catch up on. So this is a little bit hard to read, but these are the capital projects that we have identified. We have the Pine Tree Bridge, the pickleball. We're looking at a new printer for Town Hall. We don't lease our printers. We buy our printers because we generally go longer than the lease program lasts. So it saves us money if we do that. Boat lift, speed signs, and electronic signs, and you can see the list. The utility fund is not balanced this year, and that's because we have quite a few capital projects going on. Staffing is staying the same. We have no new staffing. We have no change in benefits. And again, we're proposing a 4% salary increase. There is no new debt proposed for the utility, and we are proposing to transfer $180,000 to the general fund. The new initiatives this year, we're upgrading 2 small pump stations. We're taking a different approach to these upgrades, something that seems to be a little better in terms of addressing some problems we're having in the system. We have Lawrence Road widening. If you remember, we just completed the 12-inch water main on Lawrence Road. Now we're in a position where Palm Beach County is coming in to widen that road. We have responsibilities in that widening to remove asbestos cement water main and to connect the new 12-inch to all of our old system. We're taking the same approach that we have in the past. We're going to enter an interlocal agreement with Palm Beach County. They're going to do all of the work under their construction contract, and we will pay for it at the end of construction. Our fair share of that construction cost will be known at the time of bidding, so we can make sure that we have funds available. We're going to replace an existing sewer force main. It's been breaking, and we need to replace it. So that's also on the list. Capital budget includes the 12-inch water main, the Lawrence Road widening, and the pump station R&R. The reason the 12-inch water main is still there is some of the expense of that water main is going to carry over beyond October. So we've got to carry it in next year's budget. Our capital projects, as you can see here, the Lawrence Road, the sewer force main, 1,700 feet of sewer force main, the high head new pumps for our pump station, amongst others. The infrastructure surtax fund. So this is fund number 3. Estimated revenues at $269,000, planned expenditures at $214,500. Those planned expenditures will go for drainage repair, road maintenance, and our principal and interest payments. Estimated carry for within the infrastructure surtax will be $419,500. The CRA fund, the estimated revenue from the county is $45,017. The estimated revenue from the town, our contribution to the CRA is right at $60,000, and we have planned expenditures of $136,200. We have our continuing business incentives program. We're updating the code to allow for redevelopment, economic development, as we have talked here in the past. We have park improvements and our grant match for the pickleball court. And then the ARPA fund, no new revenue is expected. Expenditures will be around $490,000. That includes improvements other than buildings and the Lawrence Road utility relocation. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions for Mr. Clark at this time?
When do we see the bridge starting in Pine Tree?
We got $600,000 from FDOT,
Yeah.
and so they get to scrutinize everything that we're doing with the bridge, and they've decided that they want it redesigned. Not
Really?
that the design was bad, but that if we want their money, we're going to jump through the hoops they tell us to jump through. So
They're
it's
gonna set
not,
the design standard?
no, we designed it to their standards.
Oh, okay, so, but they just aren't happy with that, or?
Yeah, they're just not happy with that. We had over 100 comments on the design, and our engineers estimate that it'll be $18,000 to make the design changes that they want us to make. And then February most likely is when they'll give us approval. So I'm going to guess that we'll have an April start date.
100 comments?
Yeah, Councilman, they wanted us to hire somebody to do a lead paint inspection on the bridge. It's a concrete bridge. There is no lead, there's no paint of any kind on the bridge. But we're not qualified to tell them that. It has to be a DOT certified lead paint inspector that has to go out, and it'll cost us $500 to have him write a report that says there's no paint on the bridge. We have the same issue with asbestos. Although there may be some asbestos, a bridge that age slides, bridges expand and contract, right? And so it's anchored on one end, and as it expands from the heat, it slides on the other end. Those sliding pads were often asbestos impregnated. So we have to pay another $500 to have somebody go out and take a look and see if those pads are there, and then come up with an asbestos abatement plan for those pads. We had to get a permit from South Florida Water Management District, even though there is no land area with South Florida Water Management District. They require an DOT requires an environmental resource permit from them. So we have to pay a $250 permit fee for South Florida Water Management District to explain to us that they have an exemption for local bridges and that we don't need an environmental resource permit. But we have to have the exemption letter to be able to give to DOT. So that's some of the entertaining activities we've had and some of the 97 comments.
Any questions?
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Clark. I know that you touched a little bit on deferred expenditures and kind of the importance that we've been putting as a town, several projects off for quite some time. I think that you alluded to them. I mean, if you can just reiterate again, some of the top, the top 3 projects that we've been putting off, things that we should have been doing over time. I know that COVID impacted us and everything else, but can you speak to that?
The carpeting that is in the police department is just like the carpeting that's here because of the traffic that occurs in the police department, and it's 24/7 operation. That carpet is threadbare. There are places where there's nothing left but the concrete below it. So we've had that in the budget for 4 years, and something has always come up, and we've put that, we've deferred that and moved it on. It really needs to occur. We have had people in here recently in the last 3 or 4 months asking for more, especially around some of the hunters that we have and the jet skis, asking for more police presence on the water. One of the challenges with getting police presence on the water is having to put the boat in and take the boat out every time. So we have money in there for a boat lift that will permanently put the boat in the water. So it'll be get an officer down there, lower the boat in the water, and get it out to address whatever the issue is. Our parks, we have buckling concrete in places because of our wonderful trees. We need to get that either removed and replaced or ground down. We have some of both that's proposed for the budget. We look at that as a safety issue. We don't want anybody tripping and falling. So those are some of the things that we have in the budget. That carpeting in this building was built in 2007. The chambers carpeting is in pretty poor shape. It's pretty stained. We don't think that reflects well on what it looks like when people come to town hall. And this room gets used for a lot of other meetings besides just our council meeting and the code board meeting. So we'd like it to look a little nicer. Same with the paint. 2007, we haven't touched it since that time. We'd like to get some of those issues addressed. We've got playground equipment that needs to be replaced. We've got rubber asphalt base, some of our playground areas that has shrunk over time. So now we have tripping hazards in the tot lot playground areas. So there's just some things that have to be taken care of.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that we're also addressing the playgrounds. I was out there a while ago, and I know that they've been around for a while, and you know, the sun and the heat and everything else, there's some exposed metal in places. So I'm glad that we're addressing it. Thank you so much for your diligence.
I don't have any questions for you, Dan. Thank you very much. This time we're going to open it up to the public. This is the public portion of the hearing. Anyone? Well, Mr. Daughtry, since you submitted your card, you want to start us off?
Tim Daughtry, 1410 Keller Road. So I mentioned this when we talked about the budget last month. I think the millage rate needs to go down. Okay. Lots of municipalities and the county also are lowering their millage rate right now. Okay. It's time. It's time. This millage rate was imposed, I think 2008, 2009, somewhere in that rate. And it was only meant to be a temporary millage rate of that height because of the real estate crash at that time. With the increase in real estate values over the time, it's long since time that we need to lower it. Anytime we continue with the millage rate the same amount year after year after year, it acts as a tax increase for the residents of our town. Okay. Lots of our residents have to deal with a lot of different things coming on right now. Okay. Real estate taxes are increasing. Okay. Obviously because of the values. Okay. We got insurance cost increasing. Inflation is what it is, and we read about it every day. People on fixed incomes need some relief. It's time for us to be laser focused on where we're spending our money in our town. Okay. I'm not saying that all these projects mentioned by Dan don't deserve to be funded. All I'm saying is we need to look at our costs. We're looking at increased expenditures on infrastructure issues over the next several years, which require us to make a lot of investments in this town. And we need to be focused on every dollar we spend. And I can do one thing or another or point at one thing or another. I mean, I've written down several things, but I think we're very top heavy in our personnel costs. I think a 4% pay increase is unacceptable. I would be fine with a 3% increase to what it was last year. The amount of SUVs and big vehicles that we have driven around the town by town employees and the police officers is unacceptable to me. And it's been mentioned to me by any number of people in the town. We have to closely look at the budget. We need to be looking at cutting expenses. We need to cut expenses. We have huge infrastructure issues that we're going to be focused on over the next couple of years. And we need to be able to be focused on those things and not, and I'm not going to say that they aren't essential expenditures, but we need to cut expenses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Any other comments from the audience as it relates to the budget? Have anything written or emailed in?
No, sir.
No one? Okay. That'll conclude the audience comments portion of the public hearing. Any further council comments about the proposed budget? All right. Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Motion carries. Public hearing is adjourned. Want everybody to know that the next hearing on this is going to be September 27th. That's where the actual action by the council will take place. All right, so this is a 2-hearing process. So if you have any questions or concerns or about the budget and what's proposed, please be sure to come to that meeting as well or contact us ahead of time. Going to move on now to the CRA budget. Call to order the CRA September 6, 2022 budget hearing. Can I get a roll call, please?
Chairman Paul Shalhoub,
Present.
Vice Chairman Robert Shalhoub is absent. Commissioner Gregory Freebold,
Here.
Commissioner Valentin Rodriguez, Commissioner Robert Gonzalez.
Here.
All right, Mr. Clark, can you do the presentation for the CRA budget, or is it the same as what you just went over?
It's a lot shorter than the one I just did.
All right,
I just have to find it. So there we are, one page this time. We have revenue from the county of $45,000, estimated revenue from the town. Just to make sure everybody understands, we have an obligation to pay our fair share of the tax increment financing. So we write a check to the CRA. This year it'll be $59,957. Our planned expenditures are $136,200. And with that, I'm happy to ask any questions.
any questions?
What kind of businesses are still looking to move here? Didn't we talk about one of the locations on the other side of Forest Hill Boulevard?
Yes.
That plan's still in place?
Yeah, there's, it's continually changing because it's a big project.
Right.
But yes, there's an apartment complex that would like to come in and knock down the current one that they own and build a new one in its place. So we're still talking with them.
Okay, good.
Is there any incentives that currently budgeted for with regard to the Montessori school that's trying to come in?
No.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Audience portion of the hearing is now open. Any audience comments on the CRA budget? Anything written in? Sure.
If we get the extra money, do we have a reserve? We said expenditures.
You can come on up to the podium. All right. Anything written in?
No, sir.
Okay. Any additional comments by the commission before we adjourn the public hearing? Nope. All right. Take a motion to adjourn the hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
So,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second,
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, on to new business. The approval of resolution 2022-01 submitting the 2022-2023 fiscal year CRA budget to the Lake Clark Shores Town Council for adoption as part of the Lake Clark Shores 2022-2023 town budget on September 27th, 2022.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Any audience comments about the CRA? Anything written in, Dan?
No, sir.
All right. Any commissioner comments for the good of the order?
Nope.
All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor? Is there a second? All in favor? Motion carries. All right. That meeting is adjourned. We're moving on now to the Town of Lake Clark Shores Town Council meeting, September 6, 2022. Take a roll call, please.
Mayor Paul Shalhoub,
Present.
Vice Mayor Robert Shalhoub is absent. President Pro Tem Gregory Freebold,
Here.
Councilmember Valentin Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Robert Gonzalez.
Here.
Take a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, please. Since the vice mayor is not here and he has a keen interest in unfinished business item 7B, it might be good if we defer discussion of 7B until next council meeting.
Does any councilman want to hear or have an issue with removing 7B, which is lien status 7011 Hayden Road, to the next meeting?
No objection.
I have no objection.
I'll make the motion.
Go ahead.
The motion to move 7 sub B in unfinished business to September 27th. Well, I guess it wouldn't be the September 27th meeting, would it?
It would be that meeting.
It would be that meeting?
Yeah.
All right, so the motion is to move
Yeah, that's the next hearing. I mean, sorry, the next.
7 sub B to the September 27th town council meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Is there, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We got no presentations or quasi judicial proceedings or public hearings. Those are taking place. We're going to move on to unfinished business. This is the second and final reading of ordinance 2022-02, amending section 30-3, damage to Keller Road traffic control structure. Charlie, are you going to read the ordinance?
I will.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2022-02, an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Lake Clark Shores, Florida, amending Chapter 30, miscellaneous provisions and offenses, Article 1 in general, Section 30-3, damage to Keller Road traffic control structure, to delete the intention to damage the Keller Road traffic control structure, providing authority to codify, providing a conflicts clause, severability clause, and an effective date, and for other purposes.
Any audience comments at this time on this proposed ordinance? Anyone want to speak against the ordinance? Or in favor of it? No? All right, hearing no audience comments, take a motion to approve.
So
I'd like to make a comment before we take a vote on this. I
Sure.
did want, if it's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
I did want to mention that town staff did put up a sign letting drivers know that the gates would go up and it's delayed 15 seconds. I live right down the street from it, and I do think that that helped tremendously. But also this ordinance will further clean up the ordinance that we currently have on the books. So that's a wonderful thing.
Is there a motion to approve?
So
the
moved.
ordinance? All right, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We're on to now subsection B, which is formerly C, ongoing septic to sewer discussion. So here's an update on the septic sewers. The Micah Road permitting has been received. We received the permit. So now the next step is getting the funding. We recently applied for a portion, I think it was 1.7 million of $175 million that was available through the state. Unfortunately, only 10 projects were in Palm Beach County were awarded any funds. That $1.7 million was not a part of it. However, how much did we get for the weed removal?
250,000.
Yeah, it's $250,000 for Lake Clark Shores to go in and put towards cleaning up the lake from a weed removal process. So we still got that victory. Unfortunately, we lost a larger battle on that request. We are looking at hearing back in November for the state revolving fund request to get financing for the Micah West septic sewer conversion project. Any other news on that front, Mr. Clark?
Just that when Shorelines comes out, it'll have a discussion about this
And that's getting mailed to all the residents.
within a week or so.
All right. Any council discussion on that topic?
No.
All right. We're going to move on to new business. The first reading of ordinance 2022-04 prohibiting loud, excessive, unnecessary, or unusual noise within the town parks. Mr. Scheck?
Ordinance 2022-04, an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Lake Clark Shores, Florida, amending Section 38-3 noise of Article 1 in general of Chapter 38 Parks and Recreation of the town's Code of Ordinances to prohibit any unreasonably loud, excessive, unnecessary, or unusual noise within park properties, providing for inclusion in the Code of Ordinances, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you. Any audience comments on this proposed ordinance? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First, I'd like to thank the town council for addressing this issue from a couple months ago when I came up here.
You could just state your name for the record.
I'm sorry, George Shear, 1600 Barbados Road, 300 feet from the town pavilion.
Yeah.
I read this the other day when I was looking at your agenda, and like I said, I'm very appreciative of you guys addressing it. What I was hoping for was maybe that you guys were going to outlaw the amplified music. When I read this, I see a lot of gray area, and I'm hoping that maybe this can be expounded on later, because I had a little episode this weekend. What an episode! But Saturday, as everybody knows, football season started. I invited a few friends over for college football. So we all set up and we were watching the game about 3:30 or 4, and they had a nice gathering over here, probably 100 people. And they had Mr. Gonzalez will like this commercial DJ. And so we were watching the game, and in the background, we had this music. So we had this music in our background. So I decided to take a walk over here, and I asked the DJ if he would turn the music down, and he looked at me like I was crazy. So I found the person that rented the pavilion, and I asked her, I said, ma'am, I said, can you turn this down just a hair, okay? And she looked at me and she goes, well, it's Saturday. And I said, well, it's Saturday for me too. I work Monday through Friday. So Saturday, I'd like to just chill out a little bit, and so finally after begging her, she did turn it down. But then she also went on to tell me that the staff here told her that this could go on till 9 o'clock at night. And I go, wow. I know that Palm Beach County parks are open from sunrise to sunset. So our sunset was probably about 7:15. So this party got louder as the evening went on. And then we heard this till probably 8:45, 9 o'clock. So anyway, what I would just trying to find out a little bit more, maybe at some point in this meeting or later, I can talk to Chief Smith about how the enforcement's going to be on this, because I don't want to be a stick in the mud and call every time, because if I can't hear it, or even if I hear it faintly, I don't care. But when it becomes the primary noise in my backyard, that's when I want to call and I want it rectified, hopefully to where it can be quiet.
Okay. Thank you. Any additional audience comments? All right. Any council comments on the ordinance before action is taken?
Yes, please.
Right.
Thank you for mentioning it. As some of you know, I was a mobile DJ in a past life, and that's how I got through law school. So I hear you, I feel you. I think that unfortunately, the way that the ordinance reads, my issue is the unreasonably loud. Everybody's reasonably loud or reasonably quiet is different. And for a mariachi band, Some people think it's unreasonably loud. Some people think it's great. My wife doesn't like them, but I love them. So, I'm just trying to interject a little bit of levity into this. I do think that it would be important to have some sort of a time schedule so that, we're kind of on the same page with that. Interestingly enough, on the way over here, West Palm Beach is actually having a meeting today. And they were going about trying to regulate Northwood and a certain district in Northwood, and some of the merchants there and some of the businesses have loud music. And they were trying to determine whether it was 5 feet outside of the establishment or 10 feet outside of the establishment and try to regulate this with a decibel meter. While I'm not a huge proponent of it, that certainly could or should be a component of the ordinance. And so, I think that we need to take a hard look at this, and, I think outlawing everything to where it's just a quiet pavilion, I think goes too far, but not regulating it enough and just prohibiting subjective or regulating this subjectively would be quite difficult. And it would cause for unequal application of our ordinance. So with that, I'll tender the balance of my time.
Any other comments?
Nope.
I think one of the issues, sir, with regard to the amplified music is it's very difficult to quantify what is amplified music. That was my discussions with Mr. Clark. It could be just something from my cell phone or a small speaker. I think that was one of the larger challenges that the town was facing when figuring out how to address the issue with the amplified music section of it. So if you have any thoughts or suggestions between now and the next meeting, please, get with the town on it. All right, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Moving on now to audience comments. All right, so I'm going to start with who turned in some paperwork here, the public comment card, and then we'll go from there. We'll start with Miss Brandenburg.
I'm here because I don't want you to forget me. Louise Brandenburg, 1890 Carissa Road. The residents of Lake Clark Shores, including the Brandenburgs, are entitled to live here with a reasonable expectations that they can live and enjoy their homes in the surrounding areas without the noise and traffic from commercial businesses operating out of private homes and backyards in the residential zoned areas of Lake Clark Shores. They are entitled to have a reasonable expectation that the town council and the employees of the town will perform the duties for which they took an oath and are paid to do. On May 24th, the town issued a home-based business tax receipt to a commercial rental business, being fully aware that the business was not in compliance with the state home-based business law and the Lake Clark Shore Code of Ordinances. Not only was the business not in compliance on the day the application was submitted and issued, the owner admitted information on the application. This alone was reason to deny the application and reason to immediately cancel the tax receipt. As of this day, the business currently is not in compliance with the following: Florida Statute 559955, 3A, 3B, 3C, and 3E. Lake Clark Code of Ordinances, Section 34-49, Sections 34-19, 5, 10, and 12, and Sections 3420 and Sections 125-767A, B, and 4A. I'm not here tonight because I'm bored. I'm here tonight to find out once and for all if commercial businesses are and will be continued to allowed to operate out of the backyards of homes in the residentially zoned areas of Lake Clark Shores. If code enforcement has any intention of enforcing the aforementioned violations, and does the town intend to cancel a tax receipt issued? If it's the town's intentions to allow the commercial business, please just let us know. Put it on the record. I'll stop wasting your time. I'll stop wasting my time, and just tell me that I need to go elsewhere to find an avenue to have the laws of the state of Florida and the code of ordinances enforced. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brandenburg. Ms. Nancy Armstrong. Welcome.
Thank you. Nancy Armstrong, 8023 Westlake Drive.
Ma'am, please speak into the microphone.
Yes.
Thank you.
About 3 months ago, you wanted to put the issue of a speed bump on Westlake on the back burner. You wanted to have a moratorium. I was wondering so that you could gather more information, what the results were of your fact finding, if anything. No? Okay, I have a couple of things I'd like to address. There are speed bumps, let's see, on Barbados. Pine Tree has 4. Arabian West has 1. Gregory has 1. Venetian, which is a cul-de-sac essentially, has 1. Keller Road has 1. And now Westlake has 1 at the north end. Every highly trafficked street in Lake Clark Shores, with the exception of Venetian, has 1 or more speed bumps, except for the stretch between Waterway, the Waterway stop sign, and the bridge by Wagner. Nearly every community has them. Nearly every community has them. So evidently, their safety benefits outweigh the drawbacks. My rescue remedy is wearing off, so I'm nervous. Slowing down to 15 miles per hour from 25 miles per hour to safely go over a bump and resuming legal speed adds about 3 to 4 seconds to your trip. And I've done this numerous times, so I know. More importantly, a speed bump draws attention back to the road for those who may be texting on the phone or otherwise distracted. Electronic gathering of speed information is not effective. The equipment is placed where most people are already slowing down. Additionally, the displays are not all that visible until you get close, and that's only if you're not otherwise distracted. The same goes for these share the road signs, which are a total joke. You can't see them, people ignore them, even if they do see them, and the same goes for your 25-mile-an-hour speed limit signs. Nobody's paying attention to them. Your rationale for not adding a speed bump to the stretch that I'm talking about makes no sense at all, because Westlake is so highly trafficked, makes it more imperative for speed to be reduced, and the stretch between Wagner and the Waterway stop sign has become a speedway. It's disheartening that it may take a tragedy for you to take the necessary steps of installing a speed bump to effectively make it safe for the families in our community to walk, take their pets for a walk. The kids are rollerblading, they're skateboarding, they're on their bicycles. And this is in an area where...
Your 3 minutes is up, ma'am.
Okay, it's a dangerous section of Westlake. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Did you do any fact finding?
We will address any issues that are made during public comments during the council comments.
No, as far as the moratorium, you had 90 days to do a fact finding. I was just wondering, is there any?
We'll address any questions that you have during
Okay.
council comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kulkarni? No? Okay. Mr. Daughtry?
Tim Daughtry, 1410 Keller Road. This past month, I was able to attend a meeting at Palm Springs where they discussed the beginning stage of septic to sewer conversions there. And I was impressed with how the council in Palm Springs handled it. They had the town utility manager and the engineer that was involved in the study about that there to answer questions, audience questions. And the demeanor also of the town council people was significantly different than we've seen here. There was a back and forth discussion of questions and answers in real time. And there was an encouragement of an open dialogue as to whether, when, and how a septic sewer conversion could take place. And I'm concerned about the demeanor that's occurred in this town council chambers when we've discussed septic to sewer here. It's become very adversarial, and we've come to a point where we're talking at each other rather than with each other. We need to be able to communicate openly with each of us back and forth. And to do that, we need to have a meeting here in this town council chambers where there can be an open dialogue back and forth about what should take place in the septic to sewer conversion. We still don't know what it's going to cost. Okay, we still don't know what it's going to cost. I've asked, and we really haven't gotten to that point yet. We need to discuss all the financing options that are available, not just an assessment to each of the individual residents in this town. We also need to discuss the fact that we're only addressing 700 homes when there are 1,400 homes that need to be on sewers. Okay, we need to have discussions with Palm Springs and bring them into our discussions. There needs to be a vote or a survey on whether we should move forward with this project. Runoff issues need to be addressed. Okay, what's stopping us with addressing runoff issues, which is a significant part of the problem with the lake? We need to discuss fertilizers and herbicides and weed removal and its effect on the quality of the water in the lake.
Time's up, Tim.
Okay, I'll just say one more thing. And roads and water lines should be the town's responsibility, not the homeowner's responsibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who want to come up and make a comment at this time? Come on.
George here, 1600. Sorry to beat a horse dead, but I want to respond to your last statement.
Sure.
When I had come back to you in July and put that presentation together for the council and town manager Clark and police chief Smith, I had put some ordinances in there from Palm Beach County, how they had dealt with the amplified music. And one of the things they did is they said, okay, no commercial amplified systems are allowed, but you can have a boom box. So I don't think a boom box or a cell phone is going to be encroach on anybody's privacy. So I don't know if any of you took a look at that, but if the county's dealing with it in that fashion up in River Park, up in Jupiter or Du Bois, wherever they're doing it, I would think that Lake Clark Shores has the wherewithal to be able to maybe ride coattails on that ruling or that law. So, and also I wanted to extend an invitation to where if we ever have an afternoon like I just described to you, I'd like to invite one of you to my house. And I'd love to serve you a beer and I'll have some chicken wings for you. And I'd like to have you sit in my backyard and experience how occasionally my Saturday afternoons or Sunday afternoons are. Because I can sit here and tell you how it is and complain to you, but if you experienced it, you may say, hey, you're crazy. You know, there's nothing wrong here. Or then maybe it's another point of view, but I would love to extend that invitation to one of you that, you know, if it occurs again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who are we rooting for? That's the, you know.
Anybody else have any audience comments they'd like to make at this time?
Mr. Mayor, I have one online.
Okay.
Comment was made by Ms. Pat Boyer. It says, I agree with more speed bumps. More signage is also needed. I was almost run over 3 times today when I was walking.
Is that just a comment she wanted to make, or was she? Okay. Anyone else? All right. Going once, going twice. Gonna move on to status reports. We have Chief Adams here from Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. And I just got your nice report here. Would you be so kind as to give us a status update and welcome to our meeting?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the name sign too. I feel special now. Can you hear me? So my name is Tracy Adams, District Chief, Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. Thanks for having me here this evening. Good evening. I have some really exciting news to share with you. We are now a Class 1 rated fire department. Palm Beach County Fire Rescue went through a vigorous testing process with the ISO, which is the Insurance Services Office, and we are now Class 1. We have not had that rating. We've been as far as a Class 4 in 2011, 2019 a Class 2, and 2022 Class 1. So we worked really hard. Thank you. All the guys and gals on the street, the boots on the ground work really, really hard to make this happen. So what does that mean? ISO, Insurance Office, how they rate us is how our ability to respond to fires. I have some notes, excuse me, but the ability to respond and prevent fires. So when they do this testing process with us, they will test us on our water supply and rural areas that doesn't have water supply, how quickly we can get water to a fire. And by doing that, we had to perform relay pumping, which is pumping from one engine to another engine to get water to the fire quicker without, if you don't have a ready hydrant right there, or pumping out of a water source such as lakes, or water shuttling, or using dump tanks. So we actually went through vigorous testing and time testing for that. We've improved our hydrant inspection process too. Our spare fleet, now we have 8 apparatus sitting at our support services that are 95% ready to go. So if an apparatus breaks down in your area, boom, we get somebody right back in service very quickly. So that was part of the rating too. Our fire safety inspection process, this is huge. We had 2020 about 1,900 inspections, commercial businesses. We've raised that now to 10,000. So that inspection process also will help to prevent and keep firefighters safe as well if there is an event of a fire. Training, we logged 276,000 hours of training. So we definitely, like I said, boots on the ground and trained a lot this year, and we're able to log all those hours. So what does this mean for you? What this could mean is that they're the ones that set the standards for insurance rates. So let's hope, keep our fingers crossed, pray that this will hopefully affect us in that aspect. Their insurance rates will maybe go down. So we worked really hard, we're really proud. We were presented a plaque and certificate at the Board of County Commissioners meeting last week, August 30th, stating that we're Class 1. So we were, Ms. Virginia Baker and her whole staff, we're very pleased with that. So that's exciting news. The other exciting news I have for you is I think I have mentioned in another council meeting that we are carrying whole blood on our EMS captain vehicles. We are very fortunate. We are a pilot program. There's 8 district chiefs, so there's 8 of me dispersed throughout the county. Juneau, Jupiter has their district chief, Boca's got a district chief, Lake Worth has a chief, and I'm your chief, and I handle kind of the essential part of the county, and I have 5 municipalities that I serve. So they picked our area to pilot and carry whole blood. We've given it in 3 different incidents, my area and the Trauma Hawk. And we had a recent incident with a young man in his 20s that was involved in an accident and was given whole blood. And the surgeon stated that blood in the field saved his life.
Wow.
So that's super exciting that we actually have a documented case that that whole blood is working. is helping. So as far as the report that you received with the numbers, I did study them a little bit, and I studied July's as well. And I'm happy to see that in July, especially, our response time kind of correlated along with the average, which is 6 minutes and 46 seconds. I went today and drove your area around to make sure that your gate, that southeast gate, we have it on what's called click to enter. So when our apparatus, our fire engine or our rescue pulls up and they're entering from there, we have a certain radio tack channel that we put it on, and then we just hit the mic and boom, it comes up. I was in the gate in less than 5 seconds. Boom, boom. So I'm doing that because I'm trying to really improve anything I can with our response times. So, but August was a little bit extended because we had 4 that skewed, statistics numbers, they can skew. And I looked at it, and it's the travel time, which was a little bit elevated rather than our turnout times look great. And that turnout is the part that we can control, the firefighters actually getting in the trucks and responding to the call. The travel time's a little bit different, but we're showing progress. So you have my commitment. Like I said, I was out today driving around. Your community is beautiful. It's a beautiful community here. It really is. So that is, let's see, 25 calls we ran here in August and 22 calls in July. And other than that, I have some printed copies of the fiscal year annual report. I'm not sure if I brought these before because, like I said, I have my 5 municipalities that I serve. So if you want a printed copy, I know you've received an electronic copy, but I do have some here for you as well. And unless anybody has any questions, that's my report.
Well, thank you very much, Chief. Congratulations on all your achievements. Hopefully the rates will not increase as much as a result of your efforts. We can only be hopeful. Any questions for Chief Adams? Thank you again very much. Always love having you here.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Scheck.
My report is included in your agenda packet. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions with regard to Mr. Scheck's report? Charlie, I do have a question. When do you anticipate the trailer ordinance proposal to be ready for the council's review?
It's ready right now.
Okay, so it'll be on
The final draft was delivered today.
Okay,
We worked on it all last week and made edits yesterday and added one additional paragraph today, and it is ready for the council to review.
all right. And what about the air gun ordinance?
It is also ready for the council.
Is there anything in there with regard to enforcement? Or is it just a prohibition that we won't be able to enforce?
It's a prohibition, but you will be able to enforce it. And if someone does discharge from the lake into the residential property, they are in violation of the ordinance. It doesn't outlaw air guns, but it prohibits the use of air guns on the lake and on any other public properties. It still allows an individual landowner to use an air gun on their own property.
So it makes it illegal to operate an air gun while on the boat?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions?
Mr. Scheck, I just wanted to say thank you. Took the air gun question, or thank you for including that. Thank you for looking into it. That was kind of at the top of my list.
It's my understanding, and the manager can correct me if I'm wrong, that this will be on the next agenda for your consideration on the 27th.
Since it's a part of your report, the noise ordinance that we just read, what is your issue with having the commercial amplified music in there?
You mean
Or commercial amplified sound?
I have no issue with that. I was advised that the draft of the ordinance should allow for amplified music. So what you have does not address amplified music.
Mr. Mayor, I made that recommendation because there's no definition of amplified. We know that one of our council members is very fond of packing around a speaker,
Two of them.
and that could be an amplified device.
Okay.
So unless we can find some reasonable definition of amplified, I think it's really makes it unenforceable to put that word into the text. And so I asked the attorney, Mr. Scheck, to take it out.
Mr. Mayor, for me,
Sure.
taking it a step further and just kind of putting that DJ hat on here for a second. Looking at whether or not something has a battery or doesn't have a battery. If it has a battery, sometimes those small portable boom boxes, I think, many of us can agree that it doesn't produce as much sound. However, with the technology and the increase in battery capacity, I know that Bose actually makes a unit that is extremely loud. You can hook up microphones and different instruments to it, and it produces a whole heck of a lot of sound. So for me, looking at it saying, okay, well, it's no amplified music, but battery powered amplified music would be allowed. It just starts getting really muddy in terms of how to regulate this. And I think maybe it's just a start, maybe it's just phase one, to maybe have some sort of a schedule. And I think I take your point very, very seriously that if the park is closed, well, then the park is closed. There shouldn't be any discussion about any type of music, because if in fact that's what the rules are, we need to follow the rules.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Scheck? All right. Move on to the chief.
Good evening. All of you have a copy of my report. I can go through and give you some stats if you're interested. The police department responded to 288 calls for service. We were involved in 3 arrests, 2 for battery, ag battery. 1 individual was arrested for fleeing and eluding and driving under the influence. We did a total of 154 traffic stops for the month, which is like double. We wrote 120 citations, and 21 of them were criminal, and we issued 34 warnings. We had 1 hit and run, we had a couple accidents. Our LPR cameras processed 128,479 tags coming in and out to the city with 5 cameras. We had 2 hits on 2 stolen vehicles. We also had 2 separate homicides where we were able to get information and refer them to another jurisdiction. There were 38 code violations issued, and we had a list of the training and stuff that the department was involved in. We had 1 drowning. That was a young adult in his 30s or 40s. We're waiting for the blood test to come back, and it's accidental. Having a party, some drinking, there may be other issues. So toxicology, we're waiting for that to come back on before we finalize that. Any questions?
I think y'all are doing a great job, chief. Any questions for the chief?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Chief, thank you very much. I understand that you had a nice meeting with the HOA for Lake Clark Shores Estates. I had somebody reach out to me about some code violations and how that is. And so they have an HOA that's not directly under your purview, but you were able to step in, give them some really good feedback, good suggestions, and you opened up the line of communication to them with Lake Clark Estates. So thank you very much. I know that they're very appreciative.
Also on the traffic issue on Westlake, we ordered 2 more data processing speed signs. Now, sometimes the speed signs may not be, they appear not to be activated. You're not going to see anything. That's because we control them to turn off the view so we can get a true speed. So we do that. And you do get different readings, but it only reads one hit, and that'd be the highest speed. So right now, statistically, about 95% of the people are complying with the speed. You have the other 5% that aren't. We doubled the citations issued in the general area, and we wrote a lot of warnings. We wrote some traffic citations. So we are doing enforcement in the area.
All right, thank you very much, Chief. Any other questions about his report? All right, thank you again, Chief. Moving on to Mr. Clark.
My report is here. I want to highlight a couple of items, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
One are
please.
are the events. We have movie night this Friday night here in Town Hall. You can see the screen, and we're starting to get set up for it already. On September 17th at 8 a.m., we have the lake cleanup. And on October 28th, we are going to do our first annual food truck Monster Mash. So please put on your Halloween costume, come down Friday night. We'll have 5 food trucks here, and we'll try and get back into the food truck party mode.
Awesome.
Also want to congratulate you, Mr. Mayor, on your appointment. I wasn't sure you were going to bring it up, but I wanted to congratulate you on your appointment as the chair of the Florida League of Cities Legislative Committee for Taxation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And you got your Home Rule Hero Award too, that at the same time, the 4th in a row. Any questions for Mr. Clark?
You have any hits on your website for application for replacement of Mr. Clark?
Actually, I believe that we have 9 applicants right now, 8 or 9 applicants.
Okay.
We have 2 outstanding. We have 2 that warrant look at, and we have 4 or 5 that probably are not going to make the cut.
That goes till September 9th.
Yes.
Just one last question. We had a very informative time at the Florida League of Cities. Got to learn a lot, and I sat down with the bond group there that administers, or at least provides some of the bond organization. It's the Florida Municipal Loan Council. And I see here in the report that is hopefully November 15th, they'll make a presentation or at least give us some additional information. Is that
I confirmed with Rodney that somebody will be here.
wonderful? Okay, so for those of you that were wondering about the possibility about a bond issuance, November 15th is mark your calendars.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. All right. Dan, keep up the great work. Going to move on now to council comments. We'll start with Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you. I thought tonight's meeting was very informative. The issue with the sound, I'll probably take you up on the offer to come over and listen one day.
Microphone, please.
I'll take you up on the offer to come over and listen one day. I'd like to hear what the issue is. And I'm just wondering if there's ways we can put something up maybe to help you out too. I don't know how you block sound outside, but also I want to look into the issue of how long you're allowed to have your party. I didn't know you could have it until 9 o'clock at night. Dan, do you know if there's a time frame on renting the pavilion?
I thought it was dark, but I don't know. I'll have to look into it.
Okay, well, that might be one of the things we can modify policy to do to make sure, like it ends at a certain hour, so it doesn't go late. Particularly because we don't want anyone there at night, and I assume it was nighttime when people were there, and it's dark, and I think that's a safety issue.
We do have a movie night coming up that was approved by council for the pavilion, and that's October 14th.
Oh, that's in addition to the movie night we're having this Friday?
Yes.
Okay. We have that. I don't have any other comments.
Councilman Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess we can use the pavilion to watch the football game and we'll have some chicken wings there. Wanted to kind of just run through a couple of things in relation to the speed bumps and tying the speed bumps in with the speed capture devices. The National Association of City Transportation Officials, and I'll just read just an excerpt. It says here, during evaluation, traffic conditions in the neighborhood should be observed and data collected, such as daily traffic volume and operating speed. The data collection required will be determined by the evaluation criteria developed for the jurisdiction. As part of the evaluation request, consideration should be given to the objectives of the installation: reducing speed, reduced infiltration or cut through traffic. The objectives of the installation will guide the monitoring and evaluation of speed humps after implementation. Collection of data is a key part of the evaluation of speed humps, both before and after. So we hear you, we're looking at it, we're working with the police department to get all of that. And I know that there's some issues in terms of, the placement of some of the speed signs. I notice it. And so we're working with the police department. I know we've brought that up in the past about that. So it does not go on deaf ears. A couple of things. Signage. Signage is really important. I think that we've touched on that in the past. I really think that we need maybe more picture style signs of how to share the road, or maybe showing a family or something, and something that's a little bit larger and a little bit brighter. The share the road signs, they're green and gold. Sometimes difficult to see. I get it. I hear you. So that's certainly something that I'd like to bring up with Dan, and we can talk about it, or maybe get a design for that. I did want to make a mention. Tim had touched on a couple of things about the tax rate. You also mentioned inflation. Inflation doesn't just hit the pockets of the residents, it also hits the pocket of the town as well. And just looking at my tax rate, mine year over year, I think is going up $70 or $80, and that's for the year. With that being said, Tim, you mentioned that other cities or other towns have reduced it. And in looking at some of the other towns, what's funny is sometimes towns, I don't want to make a generalized statement, but don't always give you the whole thing. They tell you that they're going to just adjust it just a little bit, and it could be a 0.004. And really the impact, you're not getting what you get. I hear you, and my heart feels for those folks that are struggling with revenue and income and whatnot. But luckily for us, we live in Florida. We've got the Homestead Act where it's going to cap that at 3%. For the folks that bought during the pandemic, that's something that all of those and the tax rate is public knowledge. There are a lot of things, and you heard it from Mr. Clark, that Lake Clark Shores has been putting off for years, and I know that the list goes on far more than what he shared with us here in person. So we're working very, very hard to make sure that we address everything and that everything is fair and balanced. So thank you very much. That is it for this evening.
Thank you, Councilman Gonzalez. President Pro Tem Freebold.
Good evening, everyone. Short and sweet and to the point tonight. Thanks to Deborah Gregorian for her code enforcement service. It's greatly appreciated. That's a tough job. And also, Mr. Clark, quickly before we send any letters or do anything, it is Claudine Vasseur, not Claudia. It's Claudia in our books, so just make sure we make that correction.
Yes,
She
sir.
served on the Parks and Recreation. Bill, congratulations. We look forward to any of the new good stuff you're going to be showing us. You do a good job of that. And what is the movie for the movie night, for the record?
Encanto.
Encanto. I've only seen that 2,000 times. I can sing all the songs. My grandchildren love it. All right.
It'll be a sing-along.
Okay, you don't want to hear that from me, but I'm good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I want to do an impromptu presentation here to Councilman Robert Bobby Gonzalez. He completed the FLC University. So he spent a couple of days up in Jacksonville, Florida, learning all about what it's like to be a municipal leader. And they gave him a nice certificate. So congratulations on completing that.
All right.
It takes a lot of time to do what we do when we're not here. And he dedicated 2 whole days to learning what it's like to be a new municipal leader. I think that's great. I look forward to all the wonderful things that he's going to do for our town council going forward. All right. Thank you to Deb Gregorian and Claudine Vasseur for serving on our committees and our boards. Y'all all participating here, the residents, on all these different facets is really important and appreciated. I echo what Bobby said about, the millage rates and the tax increase. 3%. If you had your home already, it's a 3% increase. That's where it's going to cap at, right? Not the 12% figure that you saw earlier. And we would lose, I think, we wouldn't generate over 200,000, how much?
269.
Over $260,000. We're a really small municipality here. That type of money is critical for us. I did an entire presentation to the Palm Beach County League of Cities on budgets, and I have the county coming up on the rear after I did my presentation, and they have a $1.6 billion budget. I mean, they had a PowerPoint presentation that would rival, most major companies, and I'm sitting there going, we have our, $9-10 million big budget, so it's significant. That amount of money really is significant here for our town. Let's see here. To answer your question, Ms. Armstrong, my understanding is there hasn't been a recommendation yet from the town on the speeding. When in the conversations I've had with the chief since you brought it up or since the moratorium was issued, there's been no indication that we have a speeding issue. The one thing that hasn't been done to my knowledge yet is something I think you brought up in your comments about the signs not being in the right place. So as the chief mentioned, we have some more signs coming in. So we're going to be putting them in some different locations and see what the speeding is in those areas and to make a decision then. So I appreciate your questions, but I don't really want to have like a back and forth at this time. But I can tell you this. My understanding is there was a policy put in place many, many years ago before at least half the people on this dais were involved. And essentially you could, I think 16 people or something like that, 19 people out of 20, however many got a speed bump. I wasn't familiar with the process back then. I was heavily involved with the town, but I wasn't on the council. And I don't know what led to those decisions. Wants more information on the process and do we have a speeding problem? If we do, where is it and how do we address it? So that's my understanding of why we have a moratorium in place, and we're still working that out as far as I know. And these additional speed signs are going to be a big factor, I think. Okay. So there was a comment earlier about financing. You heard Mr. Gonzalez talk about it. The individuals that we met with at the League of City meetings, we were discussing bond rates or bank rates and what do they recommend for us. So they're going to be looking into that, and they're going to be coming to the November meeting and doing a presentation on bond versus bank loans. I don't know if they're going to include SRF in there or not, but we are looking at all options here for the financing of the septic to sewer conversion. Obviously, our focus right now is on Michael West. That's the one that's in line, and then the rest will, follow down the road. But right now, we need to figure out what we're going to be doing financing wise for Michael West. And also the runoff. I think I've said this multiple times. It's in the plan. It's being addressed. the runoff is not being ignored. It's a known issue, and it is being addressed by the plans for the septic sewer conversion and then the additional work to the swales and the roadway thereafter. So rest assured that is there. And then with regard to the roads, this came up a couple times. The position from some residents is if the roads cost money that we need to maintain anyways as a town, why should the residents of the 702 homes have to fit the bill when it comes to the conversion? These roads are going to be heavily ripped up, right? And then after they're ripped up, they got to be built back. If we had spent money way back when to repair the roads, money we didn't have, but let's just say we had it, we'd then be ripping it up anyways, and the assessment would still be the same. We didn't have all these hundreds of thousands of dollars, from my understanding, again, predating me on the council, to do a lot of this road work. And even if we had, the vast majority of it is going to get ripped up anyway. So I'd love to be able to sit there and say, hey, we don't have to assess anybody for ripping up the roads and put these sewers in, but we do. We don't have that type of money. We've never had that type of money in the budget or coming in any capacity, just sitting around waiting for us to go spend it. So I understand, hey, why are we going to be assessing it if it's something y'all should be taking care of anyways? But the issue is it has to be done. There's no, it's standard practice across multiple municipalities and counties, and there just isn't money on any other way to do it. We can't raise our taxes. We have no money else coming in to do the road repairs. So I would certainly, as a resident, love for it to be different, but this, the fact of the matter is, it's just not viable. All right, that's all I have. Please, I want to draw attention to these events. September 17th, Lake Clark Cleanup, October 28th, as you heard, the Halloween celebration, the Monster Food Truck Mash. I'm hoping that's the start of more food truck events on a monthly basis. Our newer employee, Carla, has been working diligently to get our events back up and running. I know that this community loves them. I love them as a member of our community. They're great. And hopefully this is just, what starts off on Friday is the start of many more events, and we'll be back up to our 17 or so a year. So thank you all very much for attending virtually and live. It's been a pleasure. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.